It was a quiet Saturday morning in Plano, Texas. The air carried the clean scent of freshly cut grass, mixed with the steady hum of lawnmowers in the distance. FBI Special Agent Reginald Carter, a man who had faced organized crime syndicates, armed fugitives, and international threats, stepped out of his home with nothing more on his mind than taking the trash to the curb. But what should have been a moment of routine peace became the beginning of a neighborhood standoff no one would forget. Waiting at the edge of his driveway stood three figures. At the center was Linda Whitfield, the HOA president, notorious for her nitpicking rules and hunger for control. Flanking her were two men in mismatched tactical vests, stamped with crude community enforcement patches. Their boots didn't match, their posture was stiff, and their gear looked like it came from a thrift store costume rack. To anyone else, they might have looked intimidating. To Reginald, trained to spot deception, they were nothing but imposters. Linda's voice rang sharp, rehearsed and dripping with false authority. "You're in violation of neighborhood regulations. These men are here to detain you." Reginald set his trash bag on the ground and looked at them with calm amusement. "There is no such thing as community enforcement," he said evenly. "You're not police, you're trespassing, and you were about 3 seconds away from learning just how bad of a mistake this is." The taller man, Eddie, adjusted his mirrored sunglasses and puffed out his chest, trying to look official. His hand hovered over his belt as though hinting at a weapon. The shorter one, Sean, shifted uneasily, clearly out of his depth. The facade of control was already cracking. But Linda pressed forward, her voice rising. "Don't let him intimidate you. Show this neighborhood who's in charge." Reginald's trained eyes didn't just see imposters. He saw fear. He also saw something Linda hadn't noticed: curtains twitching, blinds shifting, and cell phones being raised from across the street. Neighbors were watching. What had started as a petty display of power was about to become a very public reckoning. Eddie pulled out a pair of handcuffs, letting them clank together for dramatic effect. "You're under neighborhood arrest," he declared. The absurd words drew gasps from the onlookers. Reginald's voice turned cold, precise. "Take one more step with those cuffs and you're committing a felony, impersonating an officer, attempted unlawful restraint. You think this ends with a warning? No, this ends with prison time." The crowd, once silent, began to stir. A man shouted from down the street, "Linda, this is insane! You're not the police!" Voices rose, and suddenly Linda's grip on the neighborhood was slipping. Reginald seized the moment. He raised his voice, not in anger, but with the commanding tone of a man used to speaking truth into tense rooms. "This isn't about rules or violations. This is about fake power. Real authority answers to the law. Fake authority answers to pride." Sean broke first. Shaking his head, he ripped the Velcro patch from his vest and tossed it onto the pavement. "I didn't sign up for this," he muttered. The crowd cheered. Eddie, still clinging to bravado, held the cuffs tighter, but his hand trembled. Reginald stepped closer, lowering his voice until it cut like a blade. "I dismantle men like you for a living. One wrong move and you'll find out just how real that is." Eddie faltered, but before he could back down, Linda, desperate and furious, shouted the words that sealed her fate. "You don't belong here! You never have!" The street went silent. The words were ugly, raw, and unmistakable. Neighbors turned on her instantly, voices of anger swelling louder than lawnmowers. Linda's mask of authority shattered, her true nature exposed. Reginald didn't flinch. He simply looked at her, calm and steady. "You just showed everyone exactly who you are. That'll stay with you longer than anything I could say." The final spark came when Eddie, reckless and cornered, lunged with the cuffs. Reginald's years of training took over. In one fluid motion, he sidestepped, seized Eddie's arm, twisted it behind his back, and snapped the cuffs shut on the man's own wrists. The maneuver was so fast, the crowd erupted in stunned disbelief. Linda screamed, "You can't arrest him!" Reginald's reply was cool and professional. "You're right, I can't, but I can detain him for impersonating an officer until the real police arrive." He reached into his back pocket, pulled out his leather wallet, and held up a gleaming gold badge. "I'm Special Agent Reginald Carter, FBI." The neighborhood fell into shocked silence, and then came the sirens. 2 squad cars pulled up, red and blue lights flashing across the street. The officers quickly confirmed Reginald's credentials. Eddie was hauled into a cruiser in handcuffs, his own cuffs. Linda, pale and shaking, was told she'd be giving a statement downtown. Her reign of fear was over before she even realized it. As the police drove away, the neighbors stood in stunned quiet. Phones buzzed with the first clips of the showdown already hitting social media. Reginald wasn't just their neighbor anymore. He was the man who had exposed the fraud that had been controlling their lives. In the days that followed, the neighborhood changed. Strangers began talking openly, no longer afraid of Linda's intimidation. At a small gathering in the park, a woman approached Reginald and said, "You showed us that fear only works if we let it. Linda's been making people feel small for years. You stopped her." Reginald, who never sought the spotlight, gave only a quiet reply. "Bullies keep power when good people stay silent. But truth always wins when you stand your ground." And with that, Plano's quiet. Saturday morning turned into something far greater. A reminder that real authority isn't about titles or threats. It's about courage, accountability, and the strength to face intimidation without fear.